Welcome to Saturday Morning Retro, episode 15, a podcast on the Rated G network focused on retro gaming and giving ourselves an excuse to play our collection. I'm your host, Dave Rotino, and this is my co-host, Dan, the podcaster formerly known as Classic Robinson.
What's going on, man? Saturday Morning Retro, episode 15.
Can you believe we've been doing it for more than a year? Is that what you were going to say?
That's crazy, right? That's crazy. We said we are going to do a second podcast, and it was like, how were we going to pull this off, right? It's hard enough to do one podcast.
That's right.
We did two. But I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever asked you this question, ever in life.
All right.
Saturday Morning Retro is based on, because we're old. We're both old. You're older. You're older.
By 2 years, but yes.
Or 20, but potato.
By 2 years. Oh, you gotta go back to school for math, man. But okay. For the purposes of this bit, I'll go with you. I'm an old funky.
Yeah, you're a little older, We said, listen, what are like the fondest memories of like video games and nerd culture in general? And we said, Saturday mornings, right?
That's right.
We wake up, watch cartoons, and then after cartoons, play video games and get into all that nerdy stuff that we did back in the day. Back when cartoons were good cartoons.
And still on TV. They don't actually have cartoons on TV anymore.
I know. It's at weird. Me. Yeah. At us. Yeah. I don't care.
I mean, they just don't. That's a fact. Like, you turn on TV on Saturday morning, there's no cartoons. It's all online.
They're trying to teach you stuff. Like, yo, listen, this is Saturday, okay? Not the weekday in the morning. I'm not going to school.
You need a little time to kind of veg out and watch some Ninja Turtles, right?
Oh man, you brought it back. My question to you: what was your go-to breakfast when you woke up at Saturday morning? I could tell you mine if you.
Go ahead. Kick it off.
So if I had to wake up to watch like the super early cartoons, like I had to suffer through the Punky Brewster cartoon just to watch Thundercats.
Oh, Thundercats much better.
Yeah. I wasn't the biggest fan of Punky Brewster cartoon.
Yeah, it's fair. TV show was better. But still,
TV show was better, but it was like at 6:37. That's super early on a Saturday for a kid.
All those. You get like Davy and Goliath and Punky Brewster and all those like kind of like not so great cartoons.
Yeah. So I would have Frosted Flakes, right?
Ooh,
that would be my go-to breakfast. But if I'm waking up prime time Saturday, right, which is around that 10 o'clock. That 9:30 to 10:30, when you're watching Superhuman Samurai, and you're watching a pup named Scooby Doo on Channel 7. Yep, I love that show. I would make blueberry pancakes because my mom taught me how to make pancakes. I would make both pancakes.
Okay.
And I always lined up my consoles. I would again, we do that now as adults, but I would line up my consoles and keep them in good, good shape. Get the Windex out, wiping them down, blowing into all the games. I didn't know about, as a kid, I didn't know about the alcohol, and you didn't know not to blow it in the alcohol and the Q-tips, right? I had all the games. So I had the Genesis, the PlayStation eventually, and the N64 and the NES. Super Nintendo, all lined up, ready to play games after cartoons were off. So I'm kind of curious, what was your go-to breakfast as a kid when you were Saturday mornings? It's the world is your oyster for 3 hours.
Well, I feel like it's the same as yours. In the food category option, right? Obviously, you're gonna bust out the cereal because all you got to do is pour it in a bowl and add some milk. And there's your breakfast. It takes you 2 seconds. So, Frosted Flakes is good. I liked Lucky Charms. That was pretty solid. Honeycombs is pretty good.
Honeycombs is good.
Yeah. Every now and again, I'd mess with like Raisin Bran. That was kind of cool. Cheerios, only if there was bananas around, because Cheerios by themselves, not so great. But
Honey Nut Cheerios with bananas, amazing. Yes,
right. You just slice a couple in there. Oh, so good. But the king, top of the heap, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect cereal. And I would body at a minimum 2 bowls. And if I was feeling saucy, I'd go in for a 3rd bowl. So my mom had to stock up crazy. And then I think I'm in the same boat as you. Now, I wasn't good enough to make my own pancakes, nor did I even like think that would be an option, but sometimes on Sundays, Mom would make pancakes and bacon, or pancakes and sausage, or French toast. Any combination of that stuff would just, boom, throw a ton of syrup on there. Good day.
So my mom said, I'll never forget this. She said, there's no way in hell I'm waking up this early to make you breakfast. Okay? So I'm going to teach you how to make breakfast. You can wake me up.
There you go.
You're using the stove. You can use the stove, but I'm not actually getting up to make you French toast or pancakes. Or we didn't have like a waffle maker, so waffles weren't an option, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
that's the old proverb. Teach a man to fish.
Yeah. Right? So she taught me how to make blueberry pancakes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay. Blueberry pancakes were like my go-to every Saturday. I didn't want pancakes throughout the week because I was like, I knew I was making blueberry pancakes. When I got older, I'm making blueberry pancakes for Saturday so I could wake up in time for cartoons. So,
Nice.
I was just curious what was on the menu when Saturday mornings for you.
Yeah.
It was either Frosted Flakes, obviously any cereal that we had, but I would rather Frosted Flakes or blueberry pancakes.
Wow, all right. So, Frosted Flakes was your go-to, huh? I figured you'd be more into the super sugary stuff. Because Frosted Flakes was like lightly sugared, right? It was like, it felt like it was somewhat healthy, right? Had some grains in there and whatnot. It wasn't all just like sugar and marshmallow.
Oh, you couldn't tell me that. It was nothing, they're great. Isn't that much sugar? Isn't that much sugar in that thing?
Yeah?
At least from a kid standpoint.
Right.
So, honeycombs I like. Honeycombs are the healthiest. Because Raisin Bran, I think you think, my grandmother loved Raisin Bran.
Yeah, but the raisins, man, raisins were great. And they were also lightly frosted, too, the Raisin Bran, I think.
I'm going to tell you something. I don't like raisins.
Oh. What?
Until this day, I don't like raisins.
Wow.
If I have like a coffee cake that has like raisins in it or anything, I take it out. I don't want raisins.
Wow.
I'm not a big raisin fan.
Huh. Okay.
Definitely not eating Raisin Bran.
I mean, well, that's you'd be picking out so many raisins.
Oh. Well, no, I would eat it, but I would enjoy it as much if it was Frosted Flakes.
Well, sure.
I'm not a big raisin person to this day, but Raisin Bran, no, wasn't on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think you. Well, I mean, there you go. That's your number one, right? If you had all the options in the world, you would go for the Frosted Flakes. Okay.
To this day, okay. Well,
nice.
Okay. As an adult, Dave, as an adult, what's your favorite cereal now? If you even eat cereal, still eat cereal.
Nothing changes. Now, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, top of the heap, man. King of the hill.
Wow. I got to be honest. I didn't eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch until later. They never bought it. As a kid, we never bought Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I see the commercials. I saw the commercials, and I was always jealous. I never had Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And then I went to a friend's house. I went to James' house. Funny enough, a mutual friend. I went to James' house one morning, and they had Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I was so excited and so disappointed because they didn't live up to the billing.
What?
In my eyes.
Oh,
in my
get out of here.
In my eyes. It didn't live up to the billing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It just didn't.
I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch so much that I sent away for the Cinnamon Toast Crunch bank. And every time you put money in the back of the bank, it would go Cinnamon Toast Crunch, just like in the commercial. And I was like, this is the best thing in the entire world.
I never even know that existed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know, 88, 89 maybe, back when they had the 3 dudes instead of just Wendell, right? And then it just became Wendell. What happened to the other 2 bakers?
That's right. I forgot about it used to be for the younger audience out there. There used to be three elves. I don't know what you would call them. 3 bakers.
No, they were definitely human, but like, they they looked a little elvish, I think, right? They looked a little.
Yeah.
We're in.
We had the Keebler elves, so I'm gonna say they were elves.
Yeah. And Wendell.
It was all the rage back in the day.
And then Wendell became the star of the show. The dude with the glasses and the white curly hair. He was the guy. I can only assume that he killed his partners and dropped them off a boat somewhere in the ocean.
Guess what? Uh-huh. That last bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch they were the other two guys.
Oh no!
You were eating the other two guys.
Oh no! No wonder it was so. No wonder it tasted so meaty. Oh boy.
So I gotta be honest. I don't eat cereal now.
Oh, neither do I. No.
I'm not a big cereal person now as an adult. Yeah. But if I had to eat cereal, or if I had to buy a box of cereal, I'm in love with Honey Nut Cheerios.
Yeah, okay.
Bananas or no bananas. Okay. Honey Nut Cheerios, not regular Cheerios. Nice. Honey Nut Cheerios.
Nice.
I love Honey Nut Cheerios. Like, that's the one thing when I go food shopping, go to the supermarket, gotta have a box of Honey Nut Cheerios in the cupboard just in case I'm lazy and don't want to make blueberry pancakes.
There you go.
Because I still love blueberry pancakes. Mm-hmm. We have an awesome show this month. Okay, we're gonna jump into our backlog, and I'm gonna talk about the original infamous game from PS3, and Dave is gonna talk about Halo Combat Evolved, which is weird to say, and not just Halo 1 or the original Halo.
No,
right?
It had that subtitle, Combat Evolved.
You forget that it's Halo Combat Evolved, right? Mm-hmm. Which makes you think, as a side note, why didn't they just call it Halo Combat Evolved 2? Interesting.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I don't know.
But you know how I always like to start the Saturday morning retro shows. This time in gaming history, in July, well, this month I should say, in gaming history, July 15th, 2003, Star Wars: The Knights of the Old Republic was released on the OG Xbox in North America.
The classic. Now well, go ahead.
It makes you, but I'm just saying, it makes you think. This was like on the OG Xbox, right? And Xbox was the new kid in town.
That's right.
But it was still Star Wars. Star Wars is still, the prequels were out, or starting to come out. I think at least the original the Star Wars. Well, yeah, no, Episode 1 and 2 were at least out.
Yep. Episode 3 was a couple years later.
Coming soon. No matter what you think about the prequels, in the time Star Wars was still a big deal. Star Wars is still a big deal now. Why did this game release in July? Right? It was a summer game. It's so weird. You would think this game would have released in November or something.
Yeah, they were like totally pulling a Witcher on this one, right? It wasn't a big holiday blockbuster release, even though the game was AAA. It was definitely big. It was a BioWare joint, right? This was when Microsoft.
They weren't owned by EA at the time.
No, that's right. This is when Microsoft was buying up all these studios, right? Speaking of studios, it started with Bungie, right? They ended up buying Bungie. Halo became the exclusive for the console. And they did the same thing with Rare and BioWare and I think Lionhead Studios, who was Peter Molyneux, who ended up doing the Fable games, which that was an exclusive. So Microsoft has known to kind of buy up companies to bolster their game library, right? And this was one of the fruits of their labor, was Knights of the Old Republic. And then the subsequent sequel, which, because the original did so well, like everyone was all about it. I thought this game was great. I think it has one of the best turns, one of the best reveals in video game history. I was very surprised.
I haven't played the game, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
But I always think it's so interesting, like this. Like, we had the prequel movies at the time, and now we have a prequel to the prequel movies, right?
Oh.
Like, this is a prequel. This is like 100 years before Anakin Skywalker even existed.
Yeah, like way prequels. There was Darth Revan and Darth Malak were the, I guess, the Master and the Apprentice. Yeah, that goes way back, man. Like, way before, in the way back. But it was really cool. They actually incorporated the card game that was in the books called Sabacc, and it was pretty fun. It was a whole little mini game, and you could win new cards, you could build decks, and you could wager money and like play against other people in the taverns. That was kind of cool. They had like a little racing game in there where you did like not necessarily like pod racing, maybe like pod racing on rails, if that makes any sense. It was a little bit more streamlined and a little less kind of like open and playing out in the elements. But, beyond it being like a action RPG with a ton of role-playing elements, you could be good, you could be bad. You get a ton of different companions who could, like up to 9 different companions who could be on your side. Oh, it's crazy, man. It was a good game. It's a very good game.
So, Dave. Mm-hmm. I think this is my favorite part of the show because this is the part of the show where I get to talk about all of my pickups. Did you get any good pickups this month?
I get good pickups this month. I did actually. I surprisingly getting back on my game. Lots of blue box.
Did you get a PS5?
No, I wish I did. Lots of blue box games. I got a lot.
Still trying to get you a PS5.
I got a lot of PlayStation. Yeah. Trust me. I'm on the lookout. Apparently, GameStop had a drop yesterday, and I couldn't get one. They did a whole queue thing. Wasn't able to get in there. But that being said, I did pick up a lot of PS4 games, and that includes Strange Brigade, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle.
Oh wait. Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. That is a game that people need to play. I love the Blaze Blue series.
Yeah, it's good.
Different than like a Street Fighter, right? It's not just like the Street Fighters games. It's a little bit different fighting style. You can't just do a Dukets and think that it's going to do something equivalent to that, right? You have to learn sort of the button, sort of the button configurations. But I love the Blaze Blue series, even though I suck at it, by the way.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, it's made by the same guys who do Guilty Gear. It's from Arc System Works. And Cross Tag Battle does have characters from Guilty Gear, as well as a couple of other series. I think RBRY maybe, and a couple. There's at least I think maybe 4 or 5 different series that they end up pulling characters from. Yeah. Pretty solid fighting game. Also got Risk of Rain and Rocket Arena Mythic Edition, all for the PlayStation 4. So
what's the difference? Wait, what's the difference? The Rocket Mythic Edition. What's the Mythic Edition? I don't even know what that is.
Probably got some additional stuff you can get via a code that's in the box. I'm sure It's just skins and money and whatnot. I don't think there's anything actually special about it. It's just DLC stuff.
Gotcha.
I think.
Okay.
I think. So how about you, Dan? What did you pick up?
Well, if you listen to the last regular show, I did beat the Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate Yuffie DLC, and that's because I did pick up this month the Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate.
There you go.
So I have the physical PS5 edition, and I'm still mad that the Yuffie DLC is just a download code and not on the actual disc. It should have been on a disc.
I know.
Still mad about that. Got Scarlet Nexus for the PS5. And still, that's something ongoing I've been playing on the side. I got Alex Kidd, the remake, right?
Nice.
That's on the PS5. Not the biggest Alex Kidd fan. I have all the Alex Kidd games from the original Sega Master System.
and yet, not really a fan. Oh, okay.
Not the biggest. I mean, listen, I really hate the fact, this was supposed to be like the Mario for Sega.
Exactly.
Thank God Sonic came along. Because you get 2 hits. I was dying left and right in this game. I'm sorry, not the biggest Alex Kidd fan.
Jesus.
So I got a Vita game. I mean, I actually sought out to buy this. So Little Deviants. I think this was a launch game. It had little mini games where you can. It took advantage of all the Vita bells and whistles. You could turn it, sideways and use the back touch screen. I think so. I think this is that game. I had it on my list of games to buy, and it was the only Vita game left that I really wanted. That wasn't too expensive, so I went out and got it.
I don't think I've ever heard of this game.
Dave, as a collector, you'll be proud of this. I've now reached over 100 Dreamcast games because I know you love the Dreamcast.
Ooh, it's a good feeling.
It is a good feeling, and
so
and I have. Go ahead.
You have almost half the library. And I'm not joking. I think maybe they put out 300 games.
I think it was like 2 and change, but yeah, almost half the library.
Yeah. Maybe it was just a little more than 2.
A lot of racing games, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got 4 actual number 4-wheeler, 4-wheel Thunder, which is a pretty good game. It's a hidden gem according to Metal Jesus, so I have to play that at some point.
Every game is a hidden gem to Metal Jesus. That doesn't count.
It counts.
Yeah, no, it's not a label. If every game is a hidden gem, then no game is a hidden gem. I'm sorry.
No, it counts. You're just a little salty. You're just a little salty. He didn't.
I'm not salty. It's just you got to be a little. You got to be a little particular.
He didn't say Super Mario Bros. 3 was a hidden gem.
It's not, because everyone knows it's the best.
It's a gem. It's not hidden.
Yeah, exactly. It is a gem. Yeah,
it is a gem. Yeah,
it's the fucking crown jewel of the Nintendo.
It is a gem. It is. A gem. Mm-hmm. I did pick up TNN Motorsport Hardcore Heat. TNN used to be actually a TV station. That's where WWF. Yeah, back in those days.
Turner News Network, is that right? Was that?
No, it was not. It was something totally different. I don't think it was. No, it wasn't Turner News Network. It was because you're thinking of TNT and then TBS. TNN was something totally different. And
Turner News Television was TNT. Yeah, that's what it was.
I didn't have TNN, and then when WWF bought WCW, I had to watch the WCW because I had TNT, but I didn't have my cable network didn't have TNN. I was so mad. And then when we got TNN, finally, they went back to the USA Network. So
it's always how it happens.
Yeah, during the Attitude Era, by the way. I did pick up a couple of sports games. I got NHL 2K and Tee-Off, actual TEE off, the golf game for the Dreamcast. Again, the Dreamcast famously had a lot of sports games, like the 2K series started on there.
Oh, so yeah, they were huge.
I wanted to get the hockey version or a hockey equivalent for that because I wanted to try and play it, and I will do it eventually at some point. And then I'm going to sort of fly through some of these. You stop me if you want to talk more about it. I got WW2 Aces, a flying sim game for the Wii. I got Need for Speed The Run. I thought I had all the Need for Speed games. Totally missed this, but I got this for the Wii. I went to a GameStop that was pretty far out. I know it's like South Brooklyn, the F train.
That's like the wilderness.
Yeah, I know. They still have a lot of different like Wii, 360, and PS3 games. So some of these came from there. Operation Flashpoint, Dragon Rising. I picked that up. I knew I didn't have that, and they had it for $2. So why not pick that up?
Hell yeah.
NHL 14. Yes, I know I got it for 99 cents, but I had all the other NHL games from 10, 11, 12.
You got to fill the gap,
15,
man.
16. So why not get 14, right? Tomb Raider, the anniversary for the 360. I have the Wii version, but of course the Wii version has the WoW controls. Definitely super happy to have the 360 version in the collection, so I can just play it the way it was sort of meant to be played with the damn controller and not waggling anything, right?
Yep.
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas 2 for the PS3. Skate 3. Now I have all the Skate games.
Nice.
I have Skate 1, 2, and 3. Street Fighter X Tekken for the PlayStation. I already had it for
the Xbox.
I already had
360.
Already had for the Xbox, but I mean it was like $3. Why not get it? In celebration of Codemasters being bought out by EA, I got Grid, the original Grid game for the PS3. Right, so I have that. That was like $2. Kane and Lynch, Deadman, have that for the 360, but I got that for about a couple of dollars for the PS3. And Sea of Solitude, the director's cut, I got that from Limited Run on the Switch. And Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. That game, for some reason, is up there in price. I do have this for the Wii. Again, everybody hates waggle controls, so I was hoping to get this for the 360 or PS3. It wasn't $3, but it definitely wasn't market value. So I'm happy to have that. I'm happy I picked that up.
Nice.
So those are my pickups this month. Pretty good.
Good deal.
I'm happy about it. Again, the crown jewel is Little Deviants. I don't know why I really wanted to have this game. It's been on my list for a long time. I just never picked it up. So I hopefully I'll get a chance to play it soon.
Yeah.
But Dave, this is the part of the show where we discuss our triple R picks. If you don't know what triple R is, we do this almost every Saturday morning retro show where we pick a game in a collection from the past and say if we want to remaster this game, remake this game in style of like Resident Evil 2, or recycle this game where we take the idea of the game or character and put it in a totally brand new game. I think I have a good pick this month.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and flip the script. I'm gonna let you go first.
I know this is gonna be blasphemous from a lot of old school gamers, and I'll tell you why before you start adding us at Rated G for Gamers. On Twitter, Mortal Kombat. Okay, I was a big Mortal Kombat fan. Again,
who was it?
I think I told the story, I don't know, a million times that all the high school kids had
Street Fighter.
Had Street Fighter. Yep. I found the pizzeria with the basement that had Mortal Kombat 2, and I was owning people in Mortal Kombat, right? So I loved Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero game when it came out when I was a kid. Right, I still have my original on the original PlayStation. I know it came out for PlayStation and the N64. I think the N64 version is somehow even worse.
Yeah, it's a little bit muddier. Yeah, and the sound effects I think are pretty compressed.
When this is your only game, you make it work. Okay.
Look. I understand you had nostalgia goggles, right? And you were like, "Oh, this game is great. It really is good." You had the Stockholm syndrome. Because the game, that's all you had, and you're like, I'm going to have to learn to love it. So I get it. And
I learned a long time. I learned. So I want a remake of this game. And I want from, start to finish, all the bells and whistles. I want this game to be remade the way it should have been made in the first place. Right? Like,
yeah.
I think the biggest thing was the platforming sucked. Right?
Oh, terrible.
And it was terrible to even just turn around. You couldn't just turn around.
Yeah, and you can do that. Well, you can technically. You can technically do that in Mortal Kombat, or at least your character will shift or whatever. Because I think they were trying to shoehorn in the MK fighting engine into a action platformer game, and they didn't smooth out all the edges. So. I mean, you're kind of saying that you want to recycle it, but you want the same type of game with the platforming and the whatever. You just want all the mechanics and everything to be good. Maybe a fresh coat of paint on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Resident Evil 2, right?
Yeah.
Definitely added some new elements, right, to the game and made it brand new.
And it fixed a lot of the bad issues. It fixed the tank controls, and it fixed the weird camera angles and all that. Like they really made it a 21st century game.
And that's what I want done to Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero.
Okay. Oddly, I can get behind this.
Okay. So what's your triple R this month?
Oh, it's a classic, Dan. It's going back. It's going back to our episode where we went over the top 10 on the our top 10 games of all time, when we went back and did that on one of the old Rated G episodes. And this game is near and dear to my heart. I love it. Not much needs to change, but again, it does need the 21st century treatment. It needs a little bit of love, and that game is Fallout 2, baby. I want a brand new Fallout. Well, not a brand new Fallout 2. I want the Fallout 2 game with a fresh coat of paint. Fix up the sprites.
You want it remastered, not a remake. Right?
I want a legit remaster. Yeah, it doesn't need to be redone soup to nuts in like full 3D with like ray tracing and all this crazy lighting effects and crazy 3D models. No, I mean, like, take the classic 2D or isometric 3/4 view turn-based game and polish that puppy up. Because I'll be honest, as great as that game is, it did have some issues. There were a lot of bugs. There's a lot of things where you get your game into these weird states. It could crash from time to time. And they did try GOG, Good Old Games, right? They tried to update it. I have that version. That also was a little bit weird. It added in widescreen support and some more resolutions and all that, but it's still not the best it could be. So Bethesda's got to get in there and re-release it. Just remaster it, I don't really need anything like brand new in terms of like new like characters or quests or to expand out the game world. I just want that game, polish it up a little bit, kick it out the door. I'll be a happy camper.
Okay. Wow. Yep. Why not the original Fallout instead of Fallout 2?
How do I explain it? They're essentially the same game. They're the same mechanics. They play the same way. But Fallout 2 is like, Fallout 1 was Southern California. Fallout 2 is Northern California. It's a much bigger world. There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more weapons, a lot more armor, a lot more varied enemies. It's like Fallout on steroids, the second one.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would take a remaster of the first one too. I wouldn't be that picky. But...
How about just a remastered collection of the first two games? Now that Xbox owns Bethesda,
you get my hopes up, Dan.
Just remaster the first two games, right?
Yeah.
Because they were drastically different than from Fallout 3 and on, right?
Yeah. Like Fallout 3 was made in the vein of Elder Scrolls. Where it's kind of like a first-person action RPG, right? So Fallout was that with just a different skin, and
okay,
it was I like some bits of it, but I really like that old turn-based style. Like it just got me. And they were actually Interplay was designing Fallout 3, and it was going to be in that same isometric 3/4 style, but the company went under. And everything just kind of crumbled, and the game kind of went by the wayside. So you can find some early renders, screenshots, maybe even some quick little video clips. But that game never came to be. It seems like it was very early in production. They weren't really that far along, but it is what it is.
So why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna dive deep into our backlog and talk about Infamous and Halo Combat Evolved. And we're back. All right, Dave, let's dive deep into our backlog and talk about Infamous and Halo Combat Evolved. Let me go first because I can't wait to tell you about Infamous. I know you never played it. Wait,
never played it.
Let me double check. Have you played? You never played it, right?
Never played it. And okay. I feel like it's a game that I should play. Everyone seemed to be about it, but I got to tell you, I always confuse that game and Prototype, and I don't know which one's which.
The original game did come out around the same time as Prototype,
right?
Having sort of similar mechanics, right? But I think Infamous outshined Prototype because it was a first-party game. Well, I mean, now it's a first-party game. It's developed by Sucker Punch, right? So, all right. So have you played any of the Infamous games?
Nope, I haven't played Second Son or any of the DLC. Nope, none of it.
Okay. So this game came out May 26, 2009. I didn't know it was that old. I mean, I thought I knew it was old, but I figured it would be sort of early 2000s. I mean, like
2010s. Yeah, right? Yeah, I know. I would have thought the same thing, 2011, 12 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Sucker Punch, who now, Sony owns, and, it was published by Sony, so it's a PlayStation 3 exclusive. It's an action adventure game, and I actually played this on my PS3 Slim. So
nice. All right.
A little background. I didn't know that this was a game that was only made by a team of 60 people, right, over 3 years. Now, they said they could have asked Sony for more resources and got it done in 2 years and maybe double double the crew. But Sucker Punch apparently loves to, have that small team feel to it, right? And they don't care if it takes a little bit longer to make games. So that was actually an interesting fact. I didn't know that.
That's awesome. I Sucker Punch has just gone up on my list of good devs. That's awesome.
So they started developing this. They started developing this sort of towards the end of when Sly 3, Honor Among Thieves was
right. That was the end of that trilogy.
It was inspired by superhero stories, right? It was inspired by the two comic books that inspired this. Was DC Comics series DMZ and Batman No Man's Land, right? Both, centered around in a city after a big, huge disaster. Now, I've never read I've never read the DMZ series, but I sort of dabbled into heard of it. Batman No Man's Land, but I'm not an aficionado, right? Was
Batman No Man's Land like an Arkham Knight, like a really dark Batman type thing?
It was a dark Batman around something. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read the comic, but it was something centered around a huge disaster in Gotham City.
Huh. So okay.
Yeah, I mean this was, again, Gotham City was sort of modeled after old school New York.
Yeah.
And Infamous City, which is called Empire City, was a fictional city based on New York City as well. So, and you play the original FedEx delivery man, not Death Stranding. This was the original FedEx delivery man.
Not Sam Porter Bridges. It's
not Sam Porter Bridges. No, it's your man Cole. Cole was a delivery man, a regular, average Joe delivery man, and he had a regular name named Cole.
There you go.
Right, delivering a package into the sort of like the middle of the city of Empire City when the package explodes and destroys several city blocks. It was a huge disaster, but the explosion, instead of killing Cole, it gave him superpowers. I'm going to say it turned him into a superhero, and I'll get into what I mean by that in a second, but it gave him superpowers where he can absorb electricity and project electricity. So this was, for all intents and purposes, a superhero game.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it certainly felt like it from all the materials, right? You saw him like shooting electricity and, flying around and kind of, jumping super high on buildings and all that, picking up, I'm pretty sure he gets the ability to pick up like cars and vehicles, maybe some sort of telekinesis power. Is that right?
You do get powers. You get a lot of powers as you sort of progress to the game. But I don't want to get into any type of spoilers and tell you what type of powers you can upgrade to. I'm going to keep that to a minimum. But I will say that at the time, this game was, I want to say, revolutionary, because I don't think it was the first game to do something along this lines. And you could correct me, if I'm wrong. If it was the first game, I don't think it was the first game. But it was a superhero game that gave you the freedom to be good or evil. Okay? So that's what I mean. I don't want to call him a superhero, because being a superhero depends on how you play the game, because you could technically be a supervillain.
You're right. So he was a mutant, right? He had superhuman powers, but wasn't necessarily a hero, depending on how you played. You know what though? Like I think that's interesting. Obviously not the first game where you could be good or evil, right? We just talked before the break about Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
You could go Jedi, or you could go Sith in that respect. But in a superhuman context or a superhero game, this may be one of the first, because typically it's a licensed character, right? It's your Superman, it's your Batman, maybe your Spawn or whatever. And I think that, I mean, like it's up to the rights holders, right? It's up to DC Comics or Marvel or Disney or whoever owns the rights to kind of dictate what you can and can't do with the character. right? So they're never going to I don't think DC Comics is ever going to let somebody make a game where Superman is like completely evil, right? I just don't think that would be in the cards. But a game
watch the movie Brightburn.
Oh yeah, sure.
That's the equivalent of what if Superman growing up as a kid was a dick.
Right. So it's kind of cool that Sucker Punch kind of has free reign, right? Because they made up this, they made up their own IP. They made up their own character, Cole, who turns superhuman, and he can be like good or evil. So yeah, I don't know if I could necessarily name a game where you have superpowers like that. I mean, there's probably a ton out there, but nothing really kind of springs to mind, right? Because usually they're all kind of licensed properties.
I think that's, as a side note, I'm not going to get into Infamous Second Son, but I think that's in large part why that wasn't received so well, because they changed sort of the whole narrative and the character itself, right? If Cole wasn't in that game. And it lost some of its do you want to be
charm?
Do you want to be evil from it lost some of that from getting to know this character, especially you think about Infamous 1, Infamous 2. There should have been an Infamous 3 with the same character, maybe put a cap on his character arc, and then you can go Infamous Second Son as sort of the fourth game and do something totally different. Right. I think people were waiting for that trilogy, but that we never got. We still haven't gotten, because even though the DLC was pretty good, was really good. But I don't know if Sucker Punch is going to work on a new Infamous game, unless Cole is in it. I'm sorry.
Right.
That's what I want. But I think you're right. You could be as an example, and this is semi spoilers, but it's just the beginning of the game, so I don't think it's that much. For after the explosion, they sort of, the rest of the state sort of sections off this part, right? So we're sort of left to fend for ourselves. They've sort of blocked off. You can't leave this area because they don't know who's infected and they don't know what's going on. So we're all trapped in the city. Okay, so it's like I'll give you an example. If there was a big explosion in Manhattan, and then somebody had superpowers, and they said no one can go to Manhattan, and Manhattan is just itself. It's like Snake Plissken, right? Solid, I don't want to say Solid Snake, but Kurt Russell in those Snake Plissken games where he's like trapped in LA, trapped in New York. Same thing. You're trapped in the city, and they do drops. The government does drops of like supplies, and you can be good or evil. When they do the drops, you can do a big explosion to scare people away, so you could have more supplies, more food for you and your friends, or you could be nice and not do any of that and let the people take the food that they desperately need. So if you ask me, I've been playing the game more so on the good side. I can't play the bad guy. I've been playing it on the good side, and you do have a reputation, by the way, to uphold. So it's a good balance between, are you evil or are you good? Because it will change the story slightly. It doesn't drastically change the story, like, and I guess Mass Effect sort of marketed that it did change that story, but it really didn't. It always gave you a path to where everyone would have the same ending. This is sort of the same thing. It changes some of the side stories in the story a little bit, the main story a little bit, but it doesn't change the overall arc, which is what I think people want.
So basically your choices didn't necessarily matter. Like they mattered in the middle of the game, but it didn't lead to anything at the end.
Correct. The end was always going to be the end.
Huh. Yeah.
Again, revolutionary 2009.
I mean, sure. I mean, it kind of puts a little bit of a damper. Kind of puts a little bit of a damper on the gameplay choices, knowing that they don't necessarily mean much at the end of the day. It doesn't give you like a different ending, but I get that it's kind of tough to do. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay. I mean, listen, playing a game, I try to look at it from a 2009 standpoint. It's always hard because you're looking at it from a 2021 standpoint. And I can see how if I would have played this in 2009, I would have been like, this is awesome. okay? Because this is totally different, something totally new. There is a story. I'm gonna be honest.
No, please do.
I'm not the biggest fan of the story. I'm not saying it's trash on a Dave scale by any means, because it's not. It's a good story.
All right.
The story is told in a graphic novel style cutscenes.
Oh,
right?
Kind of like Max Payne, yeah.
Sort of like Max Payne, but it looks a little 3D because sort of the camera movement in that graphic novel style. It's the camera is like shaking, so it looks like it's 3D. And I personally couldn't get into his love story, right? Like, I'm trying not to spoil things. I'm trying to dance around what I really want to say.
Okay. Fair enough.
But, you do have a girlfriend who's involved, and that plot turns into something, a bigger plot, and why you even were the delivery man for the original premise, right? So there is a twist at the end, but the story is told in that graphic novel style. I do like it, but the overall, I'm not saying how they presented it is a problem. I'm saying I'm not the biggest fan of the story. I love the way the story was told. I'm just not a big fan of the actual overall, story, no matter how they told it. Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, listen, this game is an open world, third person game. Cole can shoot, like I said, electrical blasts out of his hand. He can glide and hover, which are upgrades you can get early on in the game. And you have the choice of, if because people are dying around you, right? You're stuck. You're stuck in the city. So you can heal people with your electrical power, or you could kill people, right? Like if people are sick, you have the choice of healing them to gain a reputation, or you have, or you could just, sort of take, you cannot heal them and be a bad guy. So I ended up healing everybody. Like that was me. I ended up trying to heal everybody and stuff. Everything is climbable, right? It's sort of Breath of the Wild like for 2009, right? Where you could just you can climb up on anything, climb to any building, everything is climbable.
Nice.
That was awesome to see, right? That there were no restrictions. You can tell if there was a you can climb between two windows, you can climb pipes, and a lot of pipes around a lot of buildings where you can climb up and get to the top, get to the roof. So I kind of love that. I kind of love that part. Obviously, you have more of electrical power. You're like the modern day Zeus, as I like to call it. So water is not your friend. So if you take if you jump in the water, you're gonna die, and you'll restart from where you spawn from where you died. And you can't drive. There's no driving because of your power, you'll blow up a car. As soon as you get in the car, you'll blow up the car. So there's no driving in this. And everything seems to be sort of fairly close, and just like Sunset Overdrive. You can sort of you get that power to you can sort of surf the train, like the rails.
Yeah,
right?
You can kind of do like the kind of like soap shoe grinding, right? And you kind of grind down the rails. Yeah. And I get the no driving aspect of it, because if you're playing in a simulation of Manhattan or some sort of facsimile of it, everything's pretty tight together. You got a lot of tall buildings, high rise, right? Plus, if everything is destroyed, there's probably going to be overturned cars all over the place. So how you gonna get around in a car? Like, you want to be able to leap up onto big buildings, Superman or Hulk style, right? You want to be able to be superhuman without a vehicle behind you. So I get that. I
gotta say my biggest letdown, right? The part that I like the least of this game is the graphics.
Oh yeah.
It was dull, it was bland, it lacked color. The graphics definitely were the letdown of this game. It was so dull looking, and I'm not just saying it. Listen, Avatar came out around, I think, 2009. It was so
2009, yeah.
bright and colorful. I don't think anybody has an issue with the color in that game. And a lot of issues with that game, and color ain't one of them. This and I get them, and I kind of understand, right? Because I know you're Triple R was Fallout, right?
Yeah,
Dystopian land where there was an explosion and you gotta try to, the post-apocalyptic, right? And that was sort of what they were going for in this, because this was semi post-apocalyptic, right? There was a big explosion that destroyed a lot of things, but come on, there's still color. It didn't decimate the city, right? It still could have been some color that popped in this game. Little Big Planet came out around the same time, and it had more color in there than this game. So that was the thing that I liked about this game the least. And also, when you start a mission, there are obviously it just highlights over you. Like it's just like you're trying to find the highlights on the map. And when you get there, all you can do is cross, the highlighted portion, and then it starts the mission, and it stops you. And they're talking in your ear, because you do have an earpiece in, because you're talking to your girlfriend who sort of helps you with your missions. And random enemies that are just on the roof can start shooting at you. I think, if I start a mission, like everything should be reset. Like there's really no load times in this game, for 2009 at least, when it comes to starting a mission and getting through things. Like, just stop. It shouldn't be enemies. When I start a mission, it shouldn't be enemies shooting at me from the roof. Random enemies that are just there to give you something to do. By the way, they serve no purpose other than filler.
Right. Yeah, you gotta have a little bit of time to go, okay, what are my surroundings? What's going on right now? Be able to observe. Maybe you see some people on the roof, but they're not aimed at you just yet. Yeah, you need a little time to get into whatever you're doing. Even if you're like replaying the same mission, they can't just be like picking at you like right off the bat. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that being an issue.
The thing I really liked about this game. You have superpowers. This is like one of the first games, or around that time, you had Batman Arkham Knight, and now you have Infamous, another game that gives you like actual superpowers, where you can shoot electricity. You can use that to hovering glide over things, right? Where you're not just jumping and falling, and you can't die by jumping off a building, by the way. So, but early on you get the ability to glide. I do like the fact that they do change it up a little, right? Where you're in the sewer. You're not just on land. You keep going in the sewer. Why enemies in the sewer? I'll never understand that in any video game.
Yeah, why would they want to hang out down there? Who knows?
But if you want to repower the city, you're gonna have to go into the sewer and do some sewer missions. Because I guess in reality that's true. The grid, right? A city's grid is in the ground, so you're going sort of semi in the sewer to go in the ground to, re-energize the city, right? Because you're powering the grid.
Sure.
So
yeah.
That does make sense now that I talk about it. But in actual gameplay, I'm like, why are they here? This makes no sense. This makes no sense. Why there are enemies here? And by the way, a lot of the enemies that you see, I'm not going to get into spoilers in the main enemies, but like, I'm not getting like bosses or anything, but like sort of like the everyday enemy were regular drug dealers who turned into, these are just regular drug dealers, before the explosion. Everything is pre-explosion when they talk about things, right? So when the explosion happened, they turned into super villains that you can't see their face, and they have a hood over them. Like, why and how? I think that took me out of it a little bit. Like, if they explained it as they were just regular, corner drug dealers, and after explosion, now they look like Grim Reapers with hoods. You can't see their face. That was kind of weird. I wish they would have animations for their face, and they were really, real people. I guess maybe they couldn't. I guess they didn't. They wanted to sort of separate the regulated people, where if you killed them, that would turn you evil. These guys with hoods where you can't see their face, to where if you killed them, you are helping the public because you're taking care of the gangsters, right? They wanted to sort of cartoonify them a little bit to sort of separate them. I guess maybe that's the only explanation I can say. But it took me personally out of the game a little bit, because it was like, these guys are Grim Reapers with guns, and it was a little weird. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
Does this game hold up? I'm gonna say hell yeah. Hell yeah, it does.
It does. All right. So even with all those faults, even with the kind of dull graphics and the not so great story, the fact that you get the same ending no matter how you play, you're still about this game. You would definitely recommend it.
It's so easy to recharge your power. It feels so good to actually shoot energy bolts. And upgrading your powers. Isn't a chore, isn't a grind. It's something that as you progress the story. I think I really like that. There are little things that I don't like. There are little side missions that they show you that you don't have to do, but you have to do, if that makes sense. That are a little annoying. That it's like, oh, you gotta find four. I call them Grim Reapers. You gotta find 4 Grim Reapers and not kill them and subdue them. Yeah, it's a little annoying to do that. I just want to get rid of them and move on to the next thing, move on to the next story bit, right? But this game, definitely, I would say it's still playable in 2021.
Yeah, okay.
So let's do a little review roundup. Back, this was a PS3 exclusive.
That's right.
Metacritic score of 85 with a user score of 83. Okay. Giant Bomb gave it a perfect score of 100 at the time, and Game Shark, which I cannot find the original review.
Like Game Shark, the Game Shark, like the
well, apparently
the
Game Shark
adapter?
Apparently Game Shark had a publication. Well, there was a Game Shark publication that was Metacritic. That was on Metacritic. It was Metacritic ready.
Okay.
That gave it a 58, and for everything and they stated for everything Infamous does well, there's a counterbalance design of poor design decisions, and I can't find the original article because I don't even know if Game Shark the publication even exists anymore. So
I don't think it does. Yeah.
But the most important score that we care about, Dave, is the score that we give it. I give the original Infamous on the PS3 a solid 8.
Oh, there you go. 8 is great, man.
8 is great.
Eight's a good number. Wow. All right.
And if you want to play this game, I don't know. I can't imagine it's not on the PlayStation store. I mean, again, it's a PS3 game, so it's always hard to emulate PS3 games on PS4 or PS5 hardware. But if you do have a PS3, you can get a complete in-box copy at Luki Games for $14.
Wow, not bad. $14, perfectly reasonable. All right, good deal. All right.
So, Dave, tell me all about the original Halo, or the actual name, Halo Combat Evolved.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you about this. Game. Now I know that you played it. I'm pretty sure you've beaten it, right?
I don't remember if I beat it, but I definitely played the OG version back in the day, and I played it again with the Master Chief Collection back in I don't remember when it came out, 14, 15?
Master Chief Collection, I think, was 2016 or 17, maybe? Yeah.
I don't think it was 17.
Well, anyway, it came out a couple years ago, at least. Maybe it was
November 11th, 2014.
Wow, 2014, the Master Chief Collection.
A year after the launch of the original Xbox One.
Yeah, wow. Okay. I didn't think it was that old. Well, I'm talking about the OG one, all right? I'm talking about the Xbox launch title. I'm talking about the game that Microsoft secured for their console, because before I get into some of the stats about it, it was made by Bungie, right? And that is in the credits, but Microsoft bought Bungie, and they owned them for a bit before they sold them off to Activision. And Bungie made the first 3 Halo games in the trilogy before moving on to do other things, most notably Destiny. But this game was going to be an online multiplayer game for the Macintosh, right? And it was going to be Human vs. Covenant. They weren't going to have the single-player story mode like the game has in its final form. So I have to suspect they sat down with Microsoft. They said, hey, we love this. here's what we want to do with it, right? We want to go ahead and make this a launch title for Xbox, but you got to have a single player campaign.
Best decision Microsoft ever made.
Well, sure. And the fact that, I'm going to assume that they kind of forced we need to put a single player in there, all right? I think really kind of made it what it is, because the story is great. I'm going to get into all that, right? But right, this is a launch title for the Xbox, which means it came out November 15th, 2001. Like I said, developed by Bungie, published by Microsoft, released on the Xbox, and then in the next year, I believe it was the next year, released for the PC, and then eventually for the Macintosh, I believe in 2003, 2 years after. It's a first-person shooter, and the platform I played it on was the OG Xbox. Played it on the OG Xbox, played it on a tube TV. I did not play it with the Duke controller, Dan.
Come on. It's the launch game. You got to play it with the Duke controller.
God, no. Well, thankfully, I can't even do that because I don't own a Duke controller. I do own a couple of S controllers.
We'll change that later. We'll change that.
I don't know about that.
I know what your birthday gift is.
Oh my God, you got to give me a Duke controller. I'll take it. Just to kind of have in the collection, but God damn. So I played it. It was almost period accurate. Almost period accurate. But anyway, so a little bit about the story, right? Because this was a brand new property, right? It wasn't based off of anything. It did take nods from other franchises and whatnot. It did kind of pull in some references and this and that. So there's definitely some inspiration here. But Master Chief is an OC. It's an original creation by Bungie. And, the story's kind of unique for what it is, right? Like I kind of briefly mentioned, there's an alien race called the Covenant. The human race knows about it. The UNSC, the United Nations something court. Well, I forget what that stands for. Well, anyway, I'll have to come back to that. But the UNSC is the military force that's out in space. That's kind of keeping America safe, I guess, or keeping Earth safe, I should say, right? Because they're a military force out in space. The Covenant is a known enemy, as noted in some of the books that came out, right? So if you read the manual, I think it talks about the Covenant being a threat. And if you read, I forget the name of the book, but they put a book out after the game came out that was a prequel, right? And it basically tells the story of Halo Reach, which they ended up making a game out of a couple years later in like 2011, I think. But essentially what it is, you're on this ship called the Pillar of Autumn, right? You are Master Chief, you're in cryo sleep, and you wake up, and they go, okay, we're going to get you acclimated back to the world, Chief, right? And you kind of run through some diagnostic tests, which are basically learn how to play the game, which, I think is like kind of cool. Like, they stand over here, look at the lights, all the stuff that a lot of modern games use to do like calibration and whatnot. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then they basically get you right into the action, right? You see up in the little like observation control room that's like covered by glass and whatnot. You see the door bust open and there's a bunch of shooting, and then the Covenant come through and they just start blasting away, and then you're like, oh my God. And it's like, no time to lose. You got to go see the captain, and then boom, you're off on your adventure, right?
I forgot how like, the beginning of the original Halo game was, right? Like,
it's cinematic.
That's crazy. Yeah. I forgot how they just they sort of give you a little bit of backstory questions, and they jump into the action.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it's like the whole entire ship is under fire, right? Everything's on fire, and the little klaxons are going off, and they just the Covenant keep attaching to the ship, and like they keep boarding through the exit pod bay doors, right? So they like put their little kind of scuttle ships or whatever. They attach those on, the doors open, and the Covenant flood out. So it's a great first mission, right? They really get you into it, right? You pick up the pistol, and then you end up getting the assault rifle, and that's the classic Master Chief loadout right there, right? It's fantastic, and it felt just as good as playing it for the first time. Because I remember playing it way back in the day. Our friend Joe, he got an Xbox, and he got that game, and me and him like played through it over and over again. I mean, it was just fantastic. So it was pretty solid. As far as the gameplay goes, right? It is a first-person shooter, right? It does take nods from GoldenEye. It does take nods from Half-Life, right? GoldenEye being kind of the first good, I mean, in my eyes, the first good first-person shooter on a console. Halo kind of took that to the next degree, giving you more control options, right? Having a better layout. This is a controller that has dual analog sticks that are offset. I believe it was the first controller to do that, right? PlayStation was the first one with the two dual analog sticks. Microsoft offset it for their controller, and they've kind of kept that going into even like the Xbox Series X and the Series S, right? The controllers are offset, and I prefer that for first-person shooters, to be honest. So that felt pretty good with like a normal size controller like the S. Look, I know you love the Duke, but yeah, I
don't love the Duke. I'm telling you, the Duke isn't as bad as.
Oh no, you're not going to convince me. The Duke was terrible. There's nothing good about it. The only thing that's good about it is the offset sticks, right? And maybe the analog triggers. And that's about it. But the design it's a heckin' chonker. But anyway, like Halo really kind of set in motion all of the modern Call of Duty games, all of the kind of run and gun first person shooter games. Like it said to the gaming community, no, you can do first person shooters. You can have split screen 4-player multiplayer. You can do like large team battles, right? You can do all the stuff you can do on PC, on the console. And Halo proved that. I mean, they just came out the gate kicking with this game, right? The controls are tight. It still feels good to play, even to this day, even with all the advancements they made with Halo. It still felt good. It was responsive. I could move around. Right, like I really felt like a super soldier in a super suit, right? And co-op for the single player. A single player first person shooter with co-op. Now I know other games have done it before, but a game like this, my God, it was perfect. So you could take Master Chief. And then your friend could come in and play also Master Chief. And you would kind of run around and do all the missions and whatnot. And it was the same game. You would run through the 10 levels, right? And you could kind of pick up and play at any point in time. If somebody's on mission 4 and you want to go drop into that game, you can go ahead and do that and start at a level 4, right? And if anything you beat after that, your character profile gets that level and any subsequent levels unlocked, which I thought was super cool. I will say this, though. The level design is terrible. That's the big knock against this game. I don't know if you remember, but the level design is very maze-like. A lot of the rooms all look the same. You do get lost a lot. And I'd say more than half the missions have you backtracking. You go in, you do a thing, and then you got to come back out.
I will say I always had fun. I think when I was playing when I played the original game, I wanted to beat the game, right? Mm-hmm. When I played it on the OG Xbox, when I played it on the Master Chief Collection, I didn't beat it on the Master Chief Collection, but I spent more time to see if I could take I can't even think of the name of the rover, the RV.
Oh well, the Warthog was like the Jeep style vehicle. Yeah.
I think I spent more time seeing how I can get the Warthog inside the spaceship.
Yeah, right. Taking it around. Yeah, I actually did that a little bit this time. Is going over stuff you're not supposed to go over. Yeah, getting it up in the getting it up in the tractor beam. Sure.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
So it is amazing. Like, because you're like, where do you have to go? I beat everything on this side. Especially early on, where you're like sort of like on the beach and you're driving around and you got into the spaceship over here, and then it's like, well, where do I have to go? And you're backtracking a lot. So yes, I do. I could see the confusion in the original game, but the original game was so revolutionary in the story. I could, people sort of overlooked it, but going back to it, it's sort 100%, of like amazed. Yeah. Like, well, where am I have to go?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I felt the same way back in the day. All right, but now it's immediately apparent, and they like fix that come like Halo 2, You didn't have to go in and then come all the way back. I think there was maybe like 1 or 2 missions, maybe in part 2 out of the 15 missions that you had to do a little bit of backtracking. But they ended up fixing that stuff in the subsequent games, which is awesome. Game looks great, or I should say looked great. All right. I mean, it is a 20-year-old game.
It is dated.
It is the 20th anniversary of Halo. Yeah, it's a little bit dated. But, I mean, it does have big, vast open worlds, right? There are a lot of points where I think, like Mission 2, you like drop down on the ring, and you're in kind of this kind of foresty, mountainy area, and there's like a cliff off to the side with like a waterfall coming down, and you're just like, wow, like it's big. Right, it's expansive. You can kind of see for a while. You can turn around and look over the cliff, and it's like, wow, okay. Like, usually you'd get like tiny little corridors for these first-person shooters, right? Because you couldn't handle a lot of polygons or the draw distance, so they had to kind of like, give you little glimpses of the sky and little glimpses of a bigger city or some sort of alien infrastructure or whatever it is. Halo's like, nope. Here we go, and then there's a lot of those levels, right? When you're playing in the snow, or you're doing the mission on the beach, when you have to go in and figure out what this construct is, right? And then like Cortana's giving you all this data download, and it's like, okay, well, we found out where the thing is. Like, it's not here, and it's this structure, and then you go in, and then you, yeah.
So, Let me ask you a question. What do you think about the original story of Halo compared to subsequent stories, right? I mean, I know everyone hates the story from Halo 5, but what do you
Halo 5, not so great.
What do you think about the original story?
I think it's solid. I think it has enough twists and turns, when you kind of find out about the flood and that whole thing. When you watch the playback when like Commander Keyes dies, there's a lot of really cool stuff in here, right? There's a lot of really cool stuff, and I know I'm kind of spoiling a little bit of the story, but come on, if you haven't played Halo by now, I'm sorry. And like I do think it's like kind of cool where you kind of set the Halo ring to blow up in the first one, and then in part 2 you realize that was a signal for the flood, and then that sends a beacon out to the universe, and the flood just come into this like one point, and then you have to go and like eradicate the flood.
Okay, wait. So why don't you explain it to me? Because this is the original game.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is a Halo?
The hate. Well,
Can you explain that to me?
Yeah. So let me see if I can get a kind of a brief synopsis about this. Right. So, in Halo 4, you finally get to see the what's the name? The Forerunners. Right. You hear a little bit about Forerunner technology. Right. They kind of hint at it, or Cortana talks about it, right? So the Halo rings were built by the Forerunners, so they're ancient technology, and I believe they should be set up as like defense stations or whatever. But in the case of the In the case of the first Halo ring you come across, which you learn there's multiple Halo rings out in the universe built by the Forerunners. This one, when you end up setting it to destruct, it turns out to be a beacon for the flood. So I don't think it was set up to be used like that. I think they were like defense systems to kind of keep the flood at bay, if I'm not mistaken. But you basically get duped in the first one by this thing called Guilty Spark, right? 343 Guilty Spark. And he tells you to, you can just do this to save the universe. And it turns out to be the wrong thing. And 343 Guilty Spark turns out to not be on your side. So, yeah, I believe it's alien technology from the Forerunners, which is why the Covenant want it so bad, which is why they're on this planet. I believe they're trying to, like, take this over as their own. And you're like, no, we can't have this. It's, it's like too powerful a weapon. So 343 Guilty Spark says, hey, let's go ahead and blow this thing up. It'll be good for the universe, and turns out to be the worst thing, which like kicks off the events of Halo 2. If I remember correctly. I think I may have gotten some of that wrong, but that's essentially what it is in a nutshell, right? And then you finally get to meet the Forerunners, or at least their race, in Halo 4, which like I thought was kind of cool. It lends a little bit more to the the story and kind of the bigger Halo universe. So. But yeah, essentially the idea is, the Covenant come in and attack, you land down on this Halo ring, you're just trying to survive and get through and like pick up all your crew from the Pillar of Autumn, right? And then, you find out a little bit more about this like ring thing, and you're like, let's go investigate. And you're like, wait a minute, we got to get rid of it. And,
I love it, this ring thing, that ring adventure,
the
ring thing.
The ring thing. Well, it is a ring. It is a giant ring planet, right? Which is super cool.
It's a Halo against the planet.
It is. And I honestly I don't think I've seen something like that in sci-fi before, which I thought was kind of cool, right? You always see planets as planets, right? They can have all different types of biomes and whatever else. Never seen a planet that's like a hollowed out donut, basically, right? It's just like the outer shell around the outside. It's super cool. And you can even like look up and see the Halo ring almost go all the way around, which is like super cool and like just amazing for its time. But yeah.
Okay.
So, I guess one final note to talk about the sound design. Oh my God. Soundtrack is amazing. Marty O'Donnell, he's the man behind the scenes. He does this great 80s rock opera soundtrack. Lots of guitars and strings and drums. Really kind of like drives and gets you through. Has one of the best theme songs to any video game franchise. Hands down. Just really like, I had my TV on like full blast, man. I was just like, boom, here we go. So
I remember the iconic Halo, like the whole the theme song.
Yeah, right. And then
like if you hear that anywhere, you know that Halo.
Oh my God, it's such a good song. So much so that they keep bringing it back. It's always in every Halo game, some sort of rendition of that. It's amazing. And I guess that's about it. I do have to say, the best part about playing Halo is the brute force non-interactive demo in the demo section. I forgot that they had an extra section with a bunch of demos, because like they knew that Halo was going to be something, and they're like, hey, we have to promote our other games that are coming out. So there's like 10 non-interactive demos, which are just videos. They're just trailers, right? And one demo of Fusion Frenzy that's on the disc, right? Because they had all this extra room, so they're like, we got to put something on there. I made a point to watch the brute force trailer. It's terrible. I don't know why anybody thought it was going to be good, but I think some people maybe got it in their head that it's like Halo, But with a squad, it's not Halo with the squad. I was dying. I was laughing so hard. I forgot that was on the disc. I forgot that was on the disc, but it made my day. It made my day. And obviously the worst part about the game is the level design. Yeah. The level design's not so great. It's still super fun, but you do get lost, like I said. It's kind of
in retrospect, the level design is like bad, but I don't think anybody at the time thought that, right? It was so revolutionary, the story, what it did
everything else
move first person shooters, forward, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything else was like a 10, right? Yeah. Sound design, the graphics, like the fact you could only hold 2 weapons at a time, the vehicle combat, like just everything, the big expansive worlds. Yeah. It definitely overshadowed the level design. But going back to it now, I'm like trying to run through it, and I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know where I am. And that happened at every level. I shoot you not. So, grand question: does it hold up today? That is a resounding yes. Both of our games
even with the bad level design, which is a major thing in playing games now, you don't think you think it still holds up.
100%. 100%. That's the only, or I guess the biggest negative mark against it. Otherwise, everything fires on all cylinders, man. The story still holds up. The gameplay is tight. All right, sound design great. Yeah. So what we like to do, we do a little review roundup, right? You did it with Infamous. I'm going to do it with Halo. Overall Metacritic score of 97. No complaints there. User score of 87. Interesting that the users gave it an 87, but the journalist review scores gave it a 97. Yeah. The critics gave it a 97. Yeah, I figured that'd be the other way around, but okay, I'll take it. Best score is a 100. It's a perfect score from Xbox Nation magazine, of course. And worst score, out of all the scores, an 80 from All Game Guide. That's pretty solid, right? If your worst score is an 80, that's pretty good.
There were no actual negative scores that I could find on Metacritic,
right,
for this game,
right? So, I got to give it a review, like we do. This is out of 10. We are not using the Dave scale to rate these games anymore. So out of 10, I'm gonna give it 2 scores because I think it deserves it. The single player, 8 out of 10. All right.
Wow. Okay.
It takes a little bit of takes a little bit of a hit because of the level design. I gotta be fair. Multiplayer, 10 out of 10.
Wow. Now, why did you split it? Why not just grade it as one score because it is one game?
I mean, I could have given it.
What's I could have given it about the multiplayer.
I could have given it a 9 out of 10 overall and combined the two things together, but the multiplayer is just perfect. They have like I don't know, I want to say like 14 or 16 distinct levels. They come in all shapes and sizes, all the way up to the super big Sidewinder, all the way down to the tiny hallway called the Longest. And it's just, you can play all sorts of game types. You can do races, you can do capture the flag, you can do team battles, you can just do straight up free-for-alls. They have kill the man with the ball. They have King of the Hill where you have to control a point. I mean, and you could even make up your own different game types with your own different mutators in there, right? They really let you go at it, right? You make up your own characters with different colors and skins. It was just great. You could get up to 16 players if you had 3 other friends that each had Xboxes. You could system link up to 4 Xboxes. All right, they didn't have online yet, but you could system link them via like a router and hook them all up together like we did in college, and we could get up to 16 people playing, and it was heaven. So much fun, man. Like, every weapon has their strengths and weaknesses, but they all balance out more or less at the end of the day. So even if you're using the pistol versus the rocket launcher, you can still have a fair battle, right? The levels are interesting and neatly designed. They're all kind of varied in a way. Yeah, I had to I had to go and rate the single player and the multiplayer separately. I had to do it. I had to give the multiplayer a shine. 10 out of 10 for the multiplayer. I'm sorry. 10 out of 10.
Okay. All right.
And if you want to own this game, you can. It is going for around $10 to $12 on eBay. Or if you want to use fan favorite website Lukey Games, $6.97 on sale right now. Less than $7 to get one of the best video games of all time, to be honest. I mean, the original Halo, it's a certified classic.
It's iconic.
That's right. So, I think that about does it. That is episode 15 of Saturday Morning Retro. If you guys want to interact with us, and we know that you do, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Rated G for Gamers. Also, we are part of the Gaming Podcast Alliance. You can check out all the fine podcasts featured there at gamingpodcastalliance.com if you're looking for more gaming goodness. So, please listen, like, rate, review, and subscribe. And as always,
keep gaming.